Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode, a live episode of Lombardi Time Brews here on YouTube on this very dreary Wednesday. The Packers did return to the practice field today, or at least some of them. There are a number of injury concerns, and I'm certainly going to be covering those, but thought I would hop on here midweek and just check in and see how everybody's doing and see what your thoughts are as the Green Bay Packers prepare to take on the Minnesota Vikings. One quick channel announcement first. This coming Sunday is not going to be a watch party. As you may have heard on this channel, I've been mentioning lately that there is going to be one game that I keep special just to watch with my dad, and that is going to be this Sunday. So no watch party coming. Will, I see you're here. How you doing, Will? Oh, man, I miss you, man. I miss camp, but thanks for stopping by. So to get to the injury news of the day, first of all, Darnell Savage placed on injured reserve with a calf injury. Now, this isn't, let's say it this way. It is the same injury that Darnell Savage suffered earlier this season, but now it's a re-aggravation and not just doing the same thing, but actively making it worse. Thus, an IR stay for Savage this time. They are hopeful he's going to return this season, but it's going to be some time. Other than that, Eric Stokes also placed on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. Now, for Eric Stokes, he worked all year, came back from that traumatic Lisfranc, just multiple leg injury ordeal that he suffered last year, worked all year to come back from it, had a hamstring pull along the way, and then gets to play 4 special team snaps, basically as a flyer, before re-injuring his hamstring and now going on IR. Again, they are hopeful that he'll be returning this year, but it's going to be some time. As I mentioned the other day, the major qualm that I have here, I'm not going to pick on Stokes for getting hurt. I'm never going to pick on a dude for getting hurt. But to me, something really rubs me the wrong way about taking a guy who worked all year to come back from a massive leg injury and then rolling him out on teams. I know some people are minimizing this, but the reality is, like, you took a guy who had to recover so long from a leg injury, and then you put him in a spot where his only job in the game is to go from chilling on the bench for like 30 plays to then coming onto the field, running in a full-out sprint, just to then go back to the bench. Something about that and some rough knowledge of the human body just don't jive well with me. It seems like if he were healthy, considering you got Carrington Valentine out there and really no real depth at corner with Jair's injury, if he's healthy enough, just have him play defense and let him get into a rhythm of multiple plays in a row. If he's not healthy enough, then what do you do in activating him? So some real questions there on my end. Will, I just want to say thanks. Love these lives videos. Never stop ever. Thanks, Will. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm really, really glad you stopped by. Beyond that, multiple transactions today. First of all, with Savage going on IR, we know that Jonathan Owens is going to be the starting safety now next to Rudy Ford. It's some speculation out there that it was actually going to be Anthony Johnson Jr., that they were going to roll out the rookie, see what he's got. No. Owens confirmed as much at his locker today that it is indeed going to be him starting, and the Packers are giving the preference to the experienced vet with starting experience already in his repertoire. Beyond that, there were a couple signings today as well. First, Corey Ballantyne signed from the practice squad. He was out of game day elevations from the squad, so they signed him to the 53, given the multitude of injuries in the secondary. But also, they signed Robert Rochel. I think that's how you say it. I haven't found an official pronunciation yet. Once I find the correct one, I'm sure I'll start saying that. But in the meantime, they did sign Robert Rochel to the 53 from Carolina's practice squad. He formerly was a 4th-round pick of the Los Angeles Rams. He's in his 3rd year in the league, spent 2 years with the Rams before moving on this last offseason, and a really interesting candidate for playing time. Originally, in his college testing, he had 9.65 RAS. He's regarded as an athletic freak. He's a converted wide receiver with all of the tools necessary to go play corner. However, what has been lacking for him thus far in his career and collegiately was really the technical aspects of playing the cornerback position. He's regarded as a guy that had stiff hips, at least in college. And really in his time in the NFL, anytime he's tried press, it hasn't necessarily gone the best. It's a work in progress. But nonetheless, the tools are there. So the Packers, really not a ton out there. They make a move to bring him in and supplement the secondary with a healthy body. along with Ballantyne. Additionally, on their practice squad, they also signed Zion Gilbert. He was formerly a UDFA, spent a year with the Giants, actually was active for a number of games for the Giants last year. He registered 14 tackles and a sack for them last year before this offseason suffering a hamstring injury, something Packer fans are all too familiar with at this point. But nonetheless, they bring in Gilbert. Apparently had a fantastic workout for them last week, according to Jacob Westendorf. Great workout for them last week, but they said, hey, we got Stokes coming back. We don't need to sign him yet. Well, now Stokes hurt. Now they bring in Gilbert as an additional body on their practice squad, essentially taking Ballantyne's spot on the squad. Now, if you're wondering about practice today, that was also noteworthy because of who did and who didn't practice. Let's start with the good news first of who did practice. Now, I don't know as if officially if these are limited practices or practices in full. They haven't released that yet. But nonetheless, these individuals got through some form of practice today. Devondre Campbell returned to practice. Christian Watson, who many thought may miss some time, wound up practicing today, coming off of his knee injury. Elton Jenkins practiced, Jair Alexander practiced, and Devonte Wyatt, who got carted off from Sunday's game, was able to at least practice some today. Certainly a positive sign. For those who did not practice, there's a few there as well. One would be Luke Musgrave. The Packers did clear up whether it's an ankle injury, whether he did suffer a concussion on that cheap shot from Kareem Jackson. But indeed, it is just an ankle injury for Musgrave. He did not practice today. Josh Myers, the center, did not practice today. And then Aaron Jones did not practice today. The thing with Eric Jones, Matt LaFleur said that he was sore today, and that was to be expected. But they are anticipating this game coming up against the Vikings, ramping up his touches and his snaps. So today was giving him off to rest that soreness before ramping him up for hopefully a larger role this weekend. That is very promising. Still alarming to see him not practice today, but logic dictates it should be okay. The thing with Aaron Jones that's troubling is you got to wonder, was he just a guy as soon as that hamstring bite occurred? I mean, he didn't sound like it was very serious. No one around the Packers organization did, but yet this has now gone on in the form of, is he going to practice? Is he not going to practice? Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? We're now going on 7 weeks of this. So you got to wonder, should they have just put him on IR in the first place? But if you put him on IR and he gets ready sooner than you'd think, then it's messy. Soft tissue stuff always is. But they chose not to put him on IR. Here we are, 7 weeks later, still dealing with the up and down status of Aaron Jones. Very similar story to Jair Alexander, who, as I mentioned, did return to practice today. But the ups and downs of a back injury, would they have been better off just shutting him down and seeing if it could heal up? Who knows? I'm sure the Packers medical staff doesn't know exactly either. So there you have it, a laundry list of transactions, of elevations, of practice reports, all from today for the Green Bay Packers. So I see we got a bunch of people here. Don't be afraid to say hi. Don't be afraid to drop a question. Let me know what's on your mind here at this midweek juncture for the Green Bay Packers. If you've been curious about Jordan Love, an assessment of Jordan Love, I know that's obviously the thing right now. It's very in vogue to say that Jordan Love can't be the future quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Or on the flip side, it's very easy to still say, the tools are there. It'll be fine. Obviously, there's two sides to the coin. I would encourage you, though, if you're looking for other resources for people breaking down the exact performance of Jordan Love, I would point you in two directions to individuals who have put out something in the last couple of days that I thought was rather noteworthy. One would be from former quarterback Kurt Benkert on Twitter. He put out a whole thread with a few video clips with pictures as well, detailing different plays that Love has found himself in as of late, whether it being an errant throw from Love or someone else in the offense messing up. Also, Ben Solak, a writer for The Ringer, did a whole write-up today, and he included clips detailing some of the struggles of the youth of the offense and what his interpretation is. So if you're looking for resources about what's going on with Jordan Love, those are just two things that I've found over the last couple of days that I would point your direction in. Miserable goat. Man, Man, your name today is very fitting with that comment. Our coaches should be indicted for fraud. I don't know, man. I know, like I have a higher opinion of them than you do. We've discussed that, but yeah, things aren't going great as of late. I think we can say that. Will, so what would you suggest here for the corners and the offensive line? This hurts to see everyone injured. Yeah, Will, you're not kidding. Like this injury list is brutal. And it's not just the fact of the sheer number of injuries, it's who the injuries have afflicted. Like if you wanted to name a bunch of guys to really have to alter the course of the season would get hurt or have to make the coaches adapt game plans, you're probably going to name Jair, Aaron Jones, the inside linebackers, the offensive line, the wide receivers, like all of them have been hurt. Realistically, though, with the corners, it's really hard to say. Let's say hypothetically, Jair Alexander is unable to go again this weekend. Okay. That leaves you with Razul Douglas, Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine. Those realistically are still going to be your starters. And then you've got Corey Ballantyne as your number 4. And then assuming he can get up to speed in time, you'd have Rochelle as your number 5. Nixon is the only one of those 5 that is a true nickel corner. That means he's staying there. The other ones, though, it's going to be heavily matchup dependent. I didn't feel as though Carrington Valentine played that poorly against Denver. I think Cortland Sutton just is that good of a receiver in terms of route running, and he got a step on Valentine at times. That's going to happen. So corners, I don't know as if there's much that you can do beyond just what's there. The offensive line, however, I think you've got options. John Runyon Jr. historically has been an above average pass protector who they were willing to live with some of the deficiencies in the run game because he was good in pass pro. The problem is this year, to this point, he hasn't been good in pass pro anymore. It's been incredibly more suspect. So if there's truly a weak link on the line, it probably is John Runyon Jr. or left tackle Rasheed Walker. I think they're going to continue trotting out Rasheed Walker because they want a long-term evaluation of him to see if he can be a starter at tackle. John Runyon Jr., though, is in the last year of his contract. Whether he stands a chance to come back to Green Bay, it's kind of up in the air right now. So if they're going to move anyone around, it very well might be John Runyon Jr. So then, of course, that begs the question. Do you wind up moving Myers from center to guard, or do you just play a different guard? Sean Ryan is, of course, sitting on the bench, former third-round pick, who I don't understand why they're not playing him ever, considering that he actually had a much improved preseason and camp. I mean, at least to most who were there spectating, it looked as though he was going to earn his shot. And then we got into the season, and he was nowhere to be found. Royce Newman still playing above him. But one thing that I have to wonder is Zach Tom. He seems to be, right now, even better than Elton Jenkins. Seems to be your best offensive lineman. You need a stabilizing force in the interior of the line. And you do still have Yosh Nijman. So is it time to kick Tom inside to center and then figure out the pieces around him? Might that help stabilize Elton Jenkins to help him return to Pro Bowl form? And then play Yosh at right tackle, or even switch Sheed to right and then Yosh back into left. Or is Yosh so in the doghouse that Yosh is just out of the picture entirely, considering he only got 6 snaps after Myers went down this last weekend? There's a ton of different options there. Realistically, what I would do is at this point, would probably kick Tom inside, let him go play center. I want to know if Myers can play guard, not just for the rest of this year, but for the future. So maybe try him out there. And then I'd install Yosh. Whether it be left, right, like who knows, that's probably going to be practice that determines that. But that's realistically the direction that I would take the offensive line, at least for now. Mike, the play call is the suspect. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think, like in my personal opinion, I think LaFleur, like from an architectural standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint, he does a nice job like developing the whole scale philosophy. Where I take issue with LaFleur is in his game day implementation of the plan. I think a lot of times his sequencing gets all out of whack. I think the order in which he calls plays is not beneficial for a young quarterback. Maybe it worked with Rodgers. It's not working with Love to the same degree. Love seems to have a lot more success in the second half when things from a play calling standpoint are generally a lot looser and a lot quicker. So that kind of points the finger to the play caller, doesn't it? I don't see any reason. And I will add too, pair that with the fact that historically Matt LaFleur has been very slow to make in-game adjustments. They've talked about the difficulty of doing that before. And I got to believe that that partially occurs because his head is stuck in the play sheet. So maybe they can solve multiple things here by having LaFleur hand off play calling duties and being a game day CEO. Still designing the offense, but not being the one to call the exact sequence on game day. Maybe that would go to Stenovich, the offensive coordinator. Maybe that would go to Jason Vrabel, the passing game coordinator, who's coached at multiple spots in the offense. I don't think we know the assistants well enough to know that because we don't hear them talk enough. But in my opinion, it's time to give serious consideration. And frankly, I would do it. Have LaFleur hand off play calling. Will, why does the coaching try things that won't work, knowing that they won't work? If only they knew that they won't work. I think at this point, it's a lot of throwing stuff up against the wall. The team is incredibly young. Like we see it in the game, right? The youth is just like mistakes aplenty. How many times in the last game on Sunday did we see two receivers running right next to each other, running identical routes? That means one person's wrong for sure. So I think at this point, the coaching staff is kind of at a loss of what to do, how to adapt their offense in a way that will be successful in a game that a defense can't predict, while making it simple enough that players can actually execute it. I myself tend to lean on the remember the Titans ideology of a smaller playbook that you happen to perfect is always going to have at least some level of effectiveness. And maybe they need to start going that way. Miserable Goat. The funny fact is that we'll beat the Vikings just to make the 49ers look worse than they really are. You know, that would fit like the Packer way of the last couple of years, right? Like the Vikings are coming off of their regular season Super Bowl. Everyone's talking about the Vikings now going on a run, that this should be a massacre for the Vikings in Lambeau. Yeah, now watch the Packers actually have everything click and beat the Vikings. Frankly, like it's just so per the script, I wouldn't be incredibly shocked. Mike, the play calling sucks. Wonder why Rodgers changed the play all the time. Well, the thing is, I don't like. I know that's kind of the main belief is that Rodgers was changing stuff at the line. I think it's actually more so that Rodgers had great influence in the meeting rooms in terms of affecting the overall game plan, as opposed to Rodgers just walking up to the line and calling whatever he wanted. Still, though, I mean. Something with the transition or the sequence of how plays are called has got to change. It just has to. But on the same token, like it's not just that. Players straight up have to play better because it's been bad. Miserable Goat, nevertheless, keep up the good work. Thank you, man. Thank you. Packers for life. Amen. Jonathan, hello. How you doing, man? I'm worried shuffling the line will yield the same results, if not stunt growth for Tom, Rashid, etc. At the same time, I'd like to see Yasher Williams get some reps. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword in every way. It really is. Because I totally get it. You've got a line that's not playing well. So why do we think they're going to do well if suddenly we change everyone's job descriptions? Right? Like, yeah, I totally get that. At the same time, Green Bay drafts versatile guys on purpose who have the flexibility to kick it from one side to the other. So, and Matt LaFleur always talks about needing the best five on the field. And what he actually means by that isn't necessarily raw talent, but what that really means is the most cohesive five that can play together. And I think there's a lot of arguments to be made that the five that's out there right now isn't the five that's the most cohesive together. So maybe LaFleur needs to follow his own adage there and shake it up. The thing is, we are seeing guys who are regressing and regressing quickly beyond previous low points in their career. I mean, look at Elton Jenkins. He's given up 6 pressures on the season already. He's missed time. He hasn't looked like himself in the run or the pass game. Now, is that because Bakhtiari's out? Maybe he's kind of lost his partner in crime over there on the left side. And maybe, like, look, I'm not going to pretend to know the answer. The Packers don't know the answer. Maybe Zach Tom needs to kick it over to the left side and give Elton the running partner again. I think the future of Zach Tom may very well be at left tackle anyway. He's the best pass protector on the team. And that's where you want that left tackle spot. Generally, a right tackle is a little bit more of a mauler in the run game, and that is not Zach Tom's game. So maybe his long term future position is at left tackle. So maybe part of the cohesion is just a switch of right and left tackle. Give Sheed a chance over on the right side of the line. I know he's been incredibly deficient in the run game to this point. Maybe his physical traits work better there. Or maybe it's just time to be honest and say that Rasheed Walker actually needs more development and we should be trotting out Yash instead. It's really, really hard to say. At this point, would be an advocate for change because given what the line has presented to this point, I don't have a lot of faith that maintaining status quo is going to show improvement. I think what's more likely, given their lack of cohesion, is a maintaining of status quo. I think a shakeup there is necessary to try to find a better combination that's going to be more successful together. That's the hope, anyway, right? So I can hang out for a couple more minutes if anyone's got any more questions. Did just want to stress the importance today. Devondre Campbell actually coming back to practice. I don't want that to get lost in all of the other transactions and roster news of the day. That is a large development for the sake of the Packers defense. McDuffie has played pretty well, but as I've mentioned in past streams, McDuffie is more the type of linebacker to let plays come to him. Devondre Campbell, who was looking mighty good before this latest ankle injury, would be an improvement for the defense and ultimately will help the very, very deficient run defense that we all know too well. Beyond that, it was very promising to see Watson back at practice. It's baffling the fact that the offense has gotten less efficient since he's returned, but nonetheless, you want him on the field. And then you've got Jair returning to practice as well. So still, like, obviously you've got the 2 IR spots today in Savage and Stokes. The overall theme, though, is a lot of talent was able to return to practice. Even though Jones didn't practice, still sounds like he's on the right track to get more carries or touches this coming Sunday, which should bode well for the Packers as well. All right, so I'm going to hop on out of here. Thanks so much for those of you who dove in to enjoy the live. If not, hope you enjoyed this replay. But like I mentioned, remember, for the channel's sake, no watch party this Sunday. Yeah, one of 3 games that I'm going to wind up missing this year. I'm going to take this Sunday off so that I can actually watch a game with my dad. And then I will not be able to stream on Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve because I got a family, y'all. So, I got a couple more. I can answer these before I jump off. All right, Will, got to message me, man. Got to grab lunch or something. I'm totally down with that. Let's do it, man. Miserable Goat, have you reserved your tickets to Z? I don't know what's Z, man. I can tell you after that. Mike Tyson, number 52. That boy can play. Amen. Amen. Let's get him locked into a contract sooner rather than later, right? Commando G-Man, thanks for being here. And have you reserved your tickets to Purgatory? Hey, yeah, you got to live somewhere. It's better than living in the basement. All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out here today. Hope you're having a great day. And as always, go Pack, go.